Regular viewers of the channel will recognize my Icom 703 as kind of my go-to rig when I operate portable or I go on vacation. Now, since I've been operating a lot more CW lately, I found that, particularly on the last trip, that I really could probably benefit from having a narrow CW filter installed in this rig, for both when the band conditions get crowded or when signals start to get buried in the noise. So here are the optional filters that were offered by Icom for this rig. And I probably would have gone with the FL52, the 500 Hz filter, not quite as narrow as the 53, but therefore probably wouldn't be as ringy as the 53 would be. Unfortunately, none of these filters are sold new by Icom anymore. Now, I could look around to see if I could find something used on eBay or something like that, but I think I found another alternative that I'm going to like even better. This Inrad number 116 filter is essentially designed to be the replacement for the Icom FL52. It's a little bit narrower, 400 Hz, but it's an 8-pole filter. It probably has a little bit steeper skirts even than the Icom filter had. Of course, I won't be able to compare it, but if you look at the frequency response of it, it looks pretty sharp. So this should actually work really well in the rig. So I went ahead and picked one up. So in this video, we're going to show how to install it and take a look at the before and after results. Alright, so first things first, I'll shut the rig off, disconnect everything from it, and pull the covers. Alright, there's a total of 9 screws on the top cover. Okay, with the screws from the top cover removed, we can fold it open, and simply a plug here that we can disconnect the speaker and remove the cover. Now from here we can actually see where that filter is going to get installed. I've also removed the front panel so it doesn't get damaged in the process. Alright, the next step is to carefully remove these 2 coaxial connectors and then remove the 10 screws that are holding down the main circuit board. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now you can take these screws out with a normal Phillips head screwdriver, but they actually are the Japanese standard, the JIS standard, so if you've got a JIS number 2 bit like I have here, that will fit the screw a lot more snugly and less likely to do any damage. Now this screw right next to the center post has a grounding strap on it. Just make sure that when you remove it, you take care of that strap, and when you put it back together later, that you put that strap in the same place. Now we're not going to completely remove the board. It's essentially going to fold open this way so we can get to the bottom of the board for soldering the filter. The way we do that is we carefully lift the front of the board up to clear the mounting pins, pull the board slightly towards the front of the case to clear the connectors, and then fold it open this way. And of course, while you're doing this, please take great care not to disturb or damage these 3 ribbon cables. Okay, when we install the filter, there's a couple of screw lugs that are on the filter itself. So here's the filter from International Radio, and we can see the lugs on the bottom. We'll take those off. The filter came with this little note that advises to place this insulating film on the bottom of the filter. Even though there appears to be one on the board already, I'm going to do that anyway just to be safe. It also warns against using the star washers that came with the filter because you may potentially short to some traces on the bottom of the board, and to use these little fiber washers instead. So that's what I'm going to do. So with the insulator in place, we can now place the filter on the board. The fit is quite snug, so now we'll turn the board over carefully and we'll install the washers and the nuts here, and then solder the 4 lugs. Okay, with the nuts securely fastened, we can now go solder the 4 terminals. Alright, so now we can carefully put the board back into the housing, kind of reversing the process we did earlier, making sure not to damage or kink any of the connectors, don't damage any of the boards. Get everything slid in place here, and once they're slid in place, those pins will catch and the board will drop into place. Okay, now we can replace all the screws, including the one with the ground strap, and reattach our coaxial connectors. And with everything snugged down, we're ready to replace the top cover. We reattach the connector for the speaker, and then fold the cover back down in place and replace the 9 screws. And so the next thing we have to do is actually tell the radio that the filter is installed, so it allows it to be selected. To do that, you go into the initial set menu, which is holding down the lock, pressing power, and we scroll up to item number 22 for optional filter, and we're going to select the FL52 since this is the replacement for the FL52, and then turn the radio off. And now when we turn the radio on, and we should be able to select the filter, and we see the little N show up here. It tells us that we've selected the narrower filter. So let's go take a look at the effect of that filter. So the first thing we can do is we can certainly hear the difference. So this is the normal wide filter. If I push the narrow filter on, now we can actually hear it's a much narrower range of frequencies we're hearing. Now, with nothing being applied to the input of the radio, the audio output that we hear is just going to be broadband noise and then filtered by whatever filtering is in the radio. So I've got the phone output going into the scope and set the scope to do an FFT, and this is showing me DC to 5 kilohertz. So we can see, in fact we turn the cursors on here, we can see we're looking at about a 3 kilohertz wide or so standard single sideband filter. If I put the narrow filter on here, now we can actually see that much narrower filter shape and very, very steep side, so it's going to be a very selective filter. This rig does have a IF shift that allows you to move the filter. See, if I shift it over to one side or shift it over the other, this allows you to kind of maybe get away from a close adjacent signal, but for CW it's still looking at a 3 kilohertz bandwidth, so you're going to hear a lot more with that. So when we switch to the narrow filter, I can also move that filter and get it away from any adjacent signals and things like that. Okay, so let's go take a listen how effective this narrow filter can be. So I've got the wide filter on right now. Over there I've got a signal generator that is generating 2 pulsed signals. One right at 7.050. So if I turn that one on, we can hear it. Okay. And I also have another one at 7.049,700, so it's just 300 cycles lower. And you can hear that one just pulsing at a slightly higher frequency. If I turn them both on, you can hear both of those in the reception. Again, one tone is only 300 hertz away from the main tone we're listening to. We switch the narrow filter in. Now all I hear is my main tone. That other tone that's just 300 cycles away is being filtered away. So now that it's being filtered away, let me move it closer. Now I'm within 200 hertz, and we can hear it, right? But if I move the IF shift, we made that go away again. Let's make it just 100 cycles away. Now I can hear them both. And we IF shift again. We've shifted that filter away, and that nice steep filter has removed the signal that is 100 hertz away from the tone that we're listening to. Really very effective. Now I've actually moved the interfering tone to be 100 hertz on the other side, on the low side. Let's take a listen to that. So now you can hear them both in there. Let's shift the IF the other way. And now I'm only hearing the tone that I'm interested in. So this very steep filter, only 400 hertz wide, is really very, very effective in helping me to remove signals that are very close to the signal I'm trying to hear. Okay, so let's visually look at how that filter and how sliding it around can eliminate a close-in interfering signal. So I turned the pulsing off, so it's just a continuous signal. In fact, if we listen to it, you can hear it there now. So here's the wide filter. Now we can see our tone in here. Let me turn the interfering tone on, and we can see those two tones sitting right next to each other here, just 100 hertz apart. And no matter how I tune the filter, I really can't I certainly can't, I want to eliminate the upper one, and I can't move that filter down far enough to see that. I might be able to move the other one down, but see, they're both kind of riding down because that filter is not very steep, so not very effective. But if we put the narrow filter on, now I can actually see those two tones. Remember, the one here on the left is the one I want to keep. So if I adjust the filter, I can make that other tone literally get buried in the skirt of this the narrow filter, and the only thing I'm left with is the tone that I really want to hear. Similarly, if I move my interfering tone to the other side, so now it's 100 Hertz on the low side here, I can adjust the filter the other way and make that tone go away as well. Of course, if I try to do this with the wide filter, I adjust it over, we can see both of those are riding down that relatively, shallow skirt, if you will, and I'm not really getting very effective elimination of this close-in tone. That works fine for eliminating nearby phone signals and single sideband signals, but does not work well at all for CW. So this narrow CW filter is really the key to help pull out those signals in the presence of other interfering signals that are close by under crowded conditions. Here's an example where we can hear several different signals within the wide bandpass filter. We're only hearing the one that's centered on our narrowband filter, and we put the narrowband filter in place. Really very, very effective. So if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing so. And be sure to ring the little bell down in the bottom corner just below the video. That will alert you when I post new videos. Comments are always welcome, and thanks again as always for watching. We'll see you next time.